So, hello everyone and welcome to CiC's webinar for August 2023. Today we're going to be looking generally at the topic of anxiety, trying to understand it a little bit better and understand the individual aspects that hit us on this topic on a daily basis. My name's Harry. I'm the Head of Global Specialist Services for CiC. I'm a clinician, I'm a psychotherapist. I work mainly now with groups and organizations, but I still hold an individual private practice as well. So let me just make sure we have everything all set up. Yes, we have. We've got Rachel saying hi from the University of Reading, working from home. Nice to see you. So, as I said in the introduction, please do make comments, ask questions. I'm going to be asking plenty of questions of all of you in this session. And you can see on most slides, my question will be that bit in green at the bottom in italics. So just to introduce what we're looking at today, anxiety, a word that we will all have differing definitions for, but at base level, it is a natural human feeling. It's important that we must recognize that anxiety is unavoidable, and we experience it usually when we feel unsafe, under threat, or uncertain about something going on, either in the present or something that we imagine for the future. And many of us will experience this regularly and overcome it quickly. But what I think is most important for each individual, I think it's useful for us to understand what anxiety feels like to me. The first thing that I do when I'm working one-to-one with someone and they mention a word like anxiety, they say, oh, something makes me feel anxious, or I feel anxiety about this. The first question I ask them is, what do you mean by anxiety? What does it look like to you? What does it feel like? And we're going to discuss that in a moment. We also must do a little bit of work sometimes, a bit of self-awareness to understand what triggers it in our experience, because for all of us, we all have different triggers for our anxiety. And we're going to explore some of those things a little bit later as we get into the depths of this as a topic. I can see that someone in the chat here has said, can we access the slides later? I'm going to put a link in the chat just now to our YouTube channel. Hello to those of you watching us on there. You'll find the recording of every one of these sessions appears on that YouTube channel, usually within a week after the session. So yeah, we might feel this anxiety regularly and kind of overcome it quite quickly, but it doesn't stop it from impacting us. And for some, the feeling of anxiety becomes unmanageable. It overwhelms us, and that can lead to anxiety or what we might call panic attacks sometimes. So the first question I wanted to ask of you is, when does anxiety occur for you? When do you find it hits you the most? I've noticed in my life that it's kind of changed over time. You know, sometimes I go through periods where I'm anxious about everything. Sometimes I go through periods where I'm feeling really on top of things and confident, and I feel anxious about nothing. But I think the general theme is I'm most likely to be hit with anxiety first thing in the morning when I wake up and I feel a bit overwhelmed. I don't know where to start today, something like that. Someone said here privately, they feel anxiety the most when they feel unwell or unsure. What a great phrase, unwell or unsure. We're going to talk about kind of certainty a lot throughout this session. Tracy says here, the first thing in the morning as well, that adrenaline rush. Yeah, and I think sometimes that's linked to the way that we live our lives these days. I certainly try not to, but invariably find myself waking up in the morning. First thing I do is I push these two buttons and check my phones. Check what's going on in the world, check what news there is, check what emails I have, things like that. And that's often putting me in a position of just receiving information really early on. Jennifer said here during periods of change, yeah. Tasha said I have a digestive order, so eating, especially socially, can make me anxious. Can you see how individual this can be? And thank you for sharing that, Tasha. Robert said I'm struggling to connect audio. Hopefully that's not provoking too much anxiety. I will just put a quick message in chat to those that might not be able to hear. Someone says privately here, they experience anxiety in social groups. Sue, when I feel I'm not in control of a situation. Yeah, that's an important one, Sue, and we're going to touch on that, as I said, a little bit as well. Someone said here privately, I feel it most at night time, which leads to a lack of sleep. And look at how different of a polarity that can be. Some people feeling it first thing in the morning, some people feeling it throughout the night as well. And of course, when that anxiety impacts our sleep, it then makes the next day more difficult. It can be quite a knock-on effect. Other people saying the same thing often at night, change and the unknown. Someone's saying here, when I'm considering the future of my career, trying to sleep, in times of change, middle of the night when there's no distractions. Yeah, I think we've become quite used to being distracted in our lives. So having that opportunity to sit and focus on it can be quite difficult. And if I'm going to be honest with you, that's a little bit what I'm hoping to get out of today is an opportunity for some of you here that might not feel that's a comfortable thing to do on your own, to, as a group here, to sit and consider what anxiety looks like for us, how it impacts us the most, and what we can do about it, I guess. In periods of stress, Jasmine says, when I'm trying to get to sleep, loads and loads of really good input here, and I'm afraid I'm not going to be able to get through all of it. Deborah says waking during the night. Yeah. So there is a kind of adrenaline hit involved in an anxious response, and that can spike during the night, even if we're having kind of difficult dreams and things like that, and wake us up. Someone saying here privately, menopause has amplified it significantly for me. And as I said and gave an allusion to earlier, it does change depending on what's going on in our lives and depending how our health is in general. Yeah, thank you for sharing that one. So the next point I wanted to touch on is that it can look and feel different. And I think that's can't be more obvious than with the hundreds of messages we've got there in chat saying, how differently it comes on for people. And anxiety impacts us and affects us in many, many ways. This can be felt or recognized in, and I've put it in bold here, our bodies. As I said in the introduction, anxiety is a deeply animal response. It's an animal feeling. And so it does have these real animal physical symptoms and impacts with it. But it can also change our thoughts and feelings. Someone said here privately they experience anxiety due to a recent bereavement and a relationship breakdown, feelings of threat and fear over where we go from here. So it changes. It's impacted by our thoughts and feelings, but it changes due to them as well. And that can change our behavior. I've done some really strange things when I've been feeling anxious. I've asked some odd questions. I've put myself into situations that I probably didn't need to be in just because I was trying to cope with or deal with some anxious response I was having. Oh, someone's saying here privately, they're feeling anxiety around two friends, making them pick who to be friends with. Sounds like a really tough situation to be in. Yeah. So my question to all of you here is quite a thick one. What does anxiety feel like to you? What are the physical signs? What are the emotional effects? How does your behavior change? And I'm not just trying to get you all to share your innermost workings with me here for no reason. I think that if I have a good understanding of what the physical signs are for me, if I can pick up on those on a more regular basis, I can better care for my anxiety. If I'm trying to distract myself from it, if I'm trying to be ignorant from it, that's when it creeps up behind me and smacks me in the back of the head and makes my things much more difficult. I'd rather be able to head it, kind of face it head on, and then I've got a bit more of that power or control. So let me see what's going on in the chat here. Heart racing, thank you, Tom. Hannah, nervous stomach, overthinking. Someone else saying in my stomach. Someone says privately here, it makes me gag. Absolutely feel terrible. I feel exhausted and I become aloof. Oh, a really good one. Upset stomach and brain fog, ruminating thoughts, withdrawing, sick, tight stomach. These are powerful symptoms that people are sharing here. Someone says here, my anxiety often manifests as anger, upsetting people, then that's a feeling of anxiety. Yeah, absolutely. So our behaviors can compound it even further. Abdominal pain, insomnia, sick feeling, palpitations, yawning, butterflies, feeling like you're going to pass out, feeling sick, a fight or flight response, someone says here. Yeah, thank you, Callum. And we're gonna touch on that in a little bit as well. More people talking about upset stomachs, changes in their behavior, becoming more irritable, irrational. Some people talking about indecisiveness and brain fog. So, like I said, we're going to talk about this from the fight or flight, this animal perspective. I think it's useful just to very quickly overview the hormones at play there. We have two really key stress hormones that are being triggered when we're having an anxious response. Those are adrenaline and cortisol. Most of the effects that you've mentioned here, particularly the physical ones, have some use to us. It might not feel it at the time when I'm feeling really anxious, but there is a base animal reason for this. My heart rate increases to pump more oxygen around my muscles so that I can fight or run away from danger. My brain goes fuzzy because the adrenaline and cortisol are impacting the memory center of my brain. Again, really good in life or death situations. I want to switch off my memory because I don't want to use it. I want to act on instinct. People talking about getting irritable, changes in their emotions. Again, the adrenaline and cortisol affects our prefrontal cortex, the part of the brain where we usually regulate our emotions. Not very useful for me if I'm anxious about sitting at my desk, giving a presentation like this. But if I'm in a life or death situation, I don't want to control my emotions. I might need to be violent, aggressive to save my life as an animal. So yes, while there's good reasons for these symptoms, they might not apply so well to today's modern world. And I think, and this is hopefully the kind of overarching theme today, I think we need to be different. We need to think differently around anxiety. We need to think and understand where it is that the modern world is triggering this and where it is that we can take back power, take back control over this. Someone says here, is physical anxiety bad for my health? Always feeling sick, tight stomach, tense. I worry it's actually harming me. I think one of the biggest harms that anxiety can give to us is feeling like there's something wrong with us and that we're not coping, because then often that has actually different mental health impacts in a loss of self-esteem, feeling like I don't deserve support, that kind of stuff. And maybe I start to drop my self-care when I'm feeling anxious and things like that. So yes, it can be bad for my health. It is a health impact, suffering from anxiety, of course. But I would also make sure that when I'm feeling anxious, that's when I should dial up the self-care rather than switching it off. People talking about autoimmune impact, having to go to the toilet more often, blushing, even things like that in a kind of social context can feel really, really powerful for me. Yeah, Robert says I freeze, slurred speech. Yeah, this, for someone that presents a lot of group webinars and things, it's one of the symptoms I get from time to time. It can be really debilitating. So someone saying here privately, personal care, you're so right. I stop and I know I'm in a bad way. Yeah, and I think that that's really important, that we recognize that when I'm feeling bad, I need more help. I don't deserve less help. But it's so hard when our mood switches, when we get that lack of control of our emotions. I don't just get irritable with other people. I turn that irritation on myself. I turn that anger and aggression inwards and start attacking my own self-esteem and self-image. Samantha's put a good one in here, just feeling isolated. Yeah. When I'm feeling anxious, I am feeling under threat. I am feeling like whatever's supposed to be looking after me suddenly isn't there, and I'm frightened and alone. Yeah, and again, does our behavior change? Does that mean because we feel that fear, because we feel that anxiety, we withdraw from other people? Plenty of people put that in the chat as their symptom of anxiety, is that they withdraw from others. And so then we kind of compound it even further. Give me 1 second. I'm just having a hopefully not anxious attack of sneezes. Thank you, Rob. Yeah, someone else has said here, mild self-harm, biting lips, picking at fingers. Yeah, and that can go from any kind of stress, anxiety, depressive thought, seeing the negative in everything someone's put here. Yeah, and someone else has said privately, I struggle to mask the symptoms of my ADHD when I'm feeling anxious. Yeah, it can really exacerbate other health concerns, particularly behavioral and mental health concerns as well. Yeah. Good. I promise we'll get some positivity in this session, but I do hope that you're seeing the usefulness in just having an opportunity to see how varied the experience of anxiety is, but also the power in having an understanding that it's okay for my anxiety to be different from others, but what the person that needs to know and understand it best is me, because I'm the one who's going to feel those physical symptoms. And when I'm feeling anxious, I might not want to explain it to someone else. I might not want to bring someone else into the conversation. As I said, and as so many of you have pointed out correctly in the chat here, anxiety, fight, flight, or freeze, this automatic biological response. And look, it is our brain responding to a possible threat, something new, something unexpected, uncertainty. And yes, it is an automatic animal response. And yes, it keeps us alive, hopefully only 3 or 4 times in our lifetime when we really need the fight or flight response to save our lives. It kicks in and it helps us. But the big problem is my brain makes no distinction between a real threat or something that I've perceived as a threat. So I can go through exactly what this boxer is going through, exactly what this camera person is going through running away from this burning vehicle, just by checking my phone. My brain can perceive a message on my phone as a life or death threat and start kicking me into this fight, flight, or freeze response. So my first recommendation to any of you, have a look. Explore the symptoms of the fight or flight response. Try and find one or two that are the ones that you spot in yourself the most readily. For me, it's my heart racing and my brain not being able to focus. When I recognize those things and I'm not in any danger, I'm sitting in my bedroom right now, hopefully I'm safe and comfortable, I can then think, I know what's causing this. It's the presentation I'm giving. It's the email that I haven't written that I'm finding hard to put together. It's that phone call to the GP that I haven't followed up on. All of those things. It helps me to recognize what's actually sparking the anxiety. And it also gives me freedom, power, and control to do something different about it rather than just suffering the symptoms. Very often during the working day, I will do something really tiny to help me cope with my feelings of anxiety. And that's usually when I get an email that I wasn't expecting, or something critical has happened and I need to think really clearly. I recognize my brain is fuzzy, my heart is racing, and I'll just push myself away from my desk. And I will, usually on a day like this, just stare out the window for 30 seconds or so. Sometimes, oh, hopefully that will refocus my camera in a second. Sometimes that's really quick. Sometimes by the time I've turned my chair around, I'm already escaping from the thing that was causing the anxiety. And some of you might want to give this a try during this session. You do not need to be looking at the screen for this, unless you really want to type stuff into the chat. And I'm grateful for all of you that do, because you make these sessions much fuller and much richer than I ever could on my own. But just push yourself away from the screen, especially if you're listening to this and also doing other emails and other work. Just give yourself a chance to take a little bit of break from that and see if you can notice the difference in your body. You might also start to notice different things in the room around you as well. So as we've also alluded to, and so many of you, gave this as kind of what causes anxiety for you. Samantha said here in the chat, I go out in my garden sometimes for a moment. Yeah, just stepping outside, changing the context we're in. Animals don't do very well when we don't feel that we're in control of our safety, when we don't feel we're in a position of power to keep ourselves safe. So by walking out into the garden, I'm reminding my dumb animal brain, it's okay, I've got this. I'm living a comfortable modern life. I don't have to worry about tigers around every corner and things like that. Hannah says a walk by the sea helps. Daria says swimming helps me. Great. So when we get triggered by uncertainty, and that uncertainty can come in times of change, or it can come in times of just kind of general world uncertainty as well. But the constant change and uncertainty we face in today's modern world adds pressure and anxiety to the everyday. So today our fight or flight response is being triggered by, the bill sitting on the table in the kitchen that I know I need to pay. My physical health, as we've discussed already, relationship struggles that came up in the examples earlier as well. And someone also mentioned career worries as well too. So this is triggering this very animal response. I think added to that, and I do love technology, I do use it all the time, but instant information, I can have access to instant information, ridding me of uncertainty. So I'm not very good at dealing with uncertainty now because I'm so used to being able to Google it and find out the answer. Convenient instant information also comes at the cost of constant pings, alerts, notifications. So then I'm unable to ignore the stream of new information because I'm trying desperately to avoid that uncertainty. Someone said here privately, I have autism, so really benefit from sitting somewhere quiet for a moment. Yeah. I think whether we suffer from autism or anything else, I think we could all do with somewhere quiet every now and then. Again, particularly in a busy, information-heavy modern world. But look, a lot of this is down to control and power. If I don't feel I'm in control, if I don't feel I'm in as charge of the things that I need to be in charge of to keep myself safe, it's likely I'm going to have a negative, anxious response because I'm suffering with complex, unwanted stress. And there's an emotional toll with that as well. Someone's put some good questions here in the chat. Abundance said a good dance in front of the mirror helps. So I love that one. I'm going to give that one a try. Thank you, Abundance. Katie says, if you employ escaping techniques, then how do you get back to doing what needs to be done and not avoid it? It's a really good question. It really depends on what the symptoms are for us, Katie. But in the example I was giving, by trying not to escape, by forcing myself to do the work that's causing me anxiety, that's me actually avoiding it. I'm not thinking clearly. I'm not putting my best work on the page. I'm not employing all of my kind of modern brain resources. So by detaching from the thing that's giving me that anxious experience, I get to then re-engage in it in a different way. So I'm not engaging in it in that fight or flight brain way. This is really important and must be done. I'm usually coming back to it with, okay, it's just an email. In fact, it's an email to, yes, they're my boss, but to two colleagues that I work really closely with and have a good relationship with. And if I make mistakes in this email, that's not the end of the world. I can come back from that. I can think again. And it just allows me to come back to it a different way. So actually, the escaping technique is really helping me to come back to the reality of the situation rather than this perceived danger that my brain's trying to deal with. Hopefully that makes sense. Really good question. Tonya says here, what about the guilt that kicks in when taking a break or doing something else to avoid the thing that causes anxiety? Look, this is, I think, kind of a similar question. You know, if I'm pushing myself to do something to try and avoid feeling guilty for taking a break, then that's what needs looking at. The fact that I feel forced to continue working, even though that I'm feeling impacted, because otherwise I'd feel guilty. Because actually, I should feel guilty at not taking care of myself. I should feel guilty at pushing myself even when I'm stressed and anxious, and I know that my body is feeling the impacts of that. So actually, I tend not to feel guilt for taking breaks. They sometimes become a bit shorter when I'm busy, but just taking that time and over time practicing it, you start to recognize that you become more productive the more breaks like that you take. I am far less productive when I'm stressed than when I'm, working at pace but comfortable. Sarah says, I walk up the garden and back, usually taking something to the recycling bin on the way, so I feel I have control over something. Yeah. And it's kind of dumb animal reactions we're having, so it requires kind of dumb animal responses sometimes. A safe space of music, Brian says. Yeah, forest, nature, and swimming, going outside, getting your hands in the soil, the news. Sergio says, I hug my cat. Yeah. Someone says here, hi, Harry, how can I help someone who feels anxious about being outside in social situations? I'd go back to how we discussed it at the beginning. I'd say, look, first of all, I'm really pleased that I know you feel anxious being outside and in social situations. I'm really glad that you've shared that with me. I don't want to make any assumptions here. Talk me through what it feels like to you. Just give them an opportunity to take this experience of anxiety from being something that they deal with alone in their head and in their body, and just give them a chance to talk it out. That's the best help that you can give, is just listening. You don't have a lot of time for that these days. So if you can give someone half an hour of your time just to listen to how they experience that anxiety, that might give them something else to go and think about. Samantha says, as an added joy, COVID has caused me to have dysfunctional breathing and causes increased anxiety. I'm having to retrain my brain to breathe normally. Yeah. Gosh, that's a really tough one, Samantha. I'm sorry you're going through that. Yeah. And of course, then if I panic about my breathing not being good enough, that increases the anxiety, it increases the adrenaline, which again shortens my breath. My dumb animal brain is trying to help, it's trying to shorten my breath so that I can run and fight. But yeah. Rachel says, mindfulness or yoga is really beneficial to me. Yeah, I find those kind of guided breathing techniques a really good hit in the day of something that, is just for me. Sarah says, I have a bad habit of feeling that I need to do everything now. And as you say, if I step away, then there's some space to act effectively as they're reacting. Yeah, it's so rare. It's so rare that we actually need to deal with things immediately. Someone else might want us to deal with them immediately, but what's our needs? Someone said here privately, I used to take breaks regularly, but got caught talking to from my manager due to doing this. I'd say that's something that definitely deserves addressing. And if a manager has spoken to you about taking kind of breaks to assist with your anxiety and they're against it, I'd recommend a conversation with HR, just gently, just to say, what else can I do about this? Because these breaks help me manage my well-being. Yeah. He says, how is it helpful to view social situations that are energy draining and challenging, but you're advised socializing helps mental health? Um, like any therapist, I love the word boundaries, Katie. I would take this social situation that's energy draining and I'd break it down into something bite sized. And I might, try and be a bit explorative and challenging of myself and say, I don't want to go to this social situation, but I want to feel what it's like going. So I'm just going to make the journey to the place and then I'm going to turn around and come back. And I'm going to see how that feels to me. I'm just going to take it step by step. And be interested instead of being punishing of yourself for being drained or challenged by it. Just be interested in why that's happening for you. I think sometimes we get this lack of interest in ourselves when we don't like something about ourselves, when we wish it away, and instead just be gentle with yourself and interested in it. And also find a friend that agrees with you, because I agree that social situations are energy draining and challenging, but it does help my mental health. Just find someone that agrees with you that you can talk it out with as well. Yeah. Rachel said a good one here, social snacks, maybe a coffee with a friend one-to-one rather than hours at a noisy pub with a large group. Yeah, bite size, break it down. Um, I wanted to also touch on the kind of more extreme side of anxiety. Most of us will still feel this on a regular basis. Again, it's quite a natural human response. But if we are around stressful and uncertain situations time after time after time, that's naturally going to produce a kind of background level of anxiety. However, when we get this kind of always anxious background level of anxiety, it can sometimes do this thing and switch to what we call catastrophizing. I don't know, let me know in the chat if you've heard about this. Oh, thanks, Callow. That's very nice. Let me know in the chat if you've heard about this phrase, catastrophizing. Yeah, okay. Any of you here big fans of catastrophizing and find yourself doing it a lot? By the way, this is a brief reminder to have some water if you've got any nearby. Okay, lots of people talking about saying yes, 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 yes all the time, all the time. Okay, I love going to worst case scenarios. Victoria, it took me therapy and CBT to break my catastrophizing cycle. Yeah, sometimes again, we just need a little place to kind of play it out because it is quite individual with this. But for those of you that haven't, catastrophizing is like uncontrolled, irrational, negative thinking. The example I always use is I arrive at a train station and I forget where I am. I forget where I'm going, what train I'm supposed to be on, what platform it is, whether I've paid for my ticket. And all of these overwhelming thoughts then hit me. And then my brain starts to do the wonderful thing of trying to be clairvoyant and trying to predict what's going to come next. And remember, this is my animal brain trying to keep me safe. It's trying to recognize where the danger might be. But what happens is I leap ahead into the future and I think, well, I missed that train. So I missed the meeting I was going to. So my boss gets angry. So I get fired. And because I get fired, I end up homeless. And because I end up homeless, all my friends don't want to talk to me anymore. I'm left alone. And all of a sudden, just standing frozen on a concourse at a train station, I'm having a real wobbly time. My whole body, my whole brain going through these motions. My body is starting to act as if the worst thing that I'm imagining is about to happen. Yeah, people saying all the blooming time. One of the many cognitive distortions that feed anxiety. Yeah, and look, it's just a natural kind of process. It gets hard to deal with this, really, really difficult. I've put a few simple kind of tools that I try and use here that I know will not work for everyone. I know they're really difficult to do. Oh, Tracy saying this is me. Yeah. Sammy saying, even though I'm a psychiatrist and psychotherapist, it takes me medication and some struggle with catastrophizing when I have anxiety. Thank you for your honesty around that. I think there's often this feeling that mental health professionals can't suffer in their mental health as well. But yeah, of course we do. Of course we feel those things strongly as well. So yeah, when you're feeling this catastrophizing, best thing that you can do for yourself, and the hardest thing to do, is to try and bring your thoughts back to the present. So again, a good early warning sign. If I can be aware of those physical symptoms, if I am walking gently and slowly through a train station, heart should not be is. Bring my thoughts back to the present self. Think clearly before I get into this thread of catastrophizing. If I notice that it's spiraling and it's still going, I don't care whether I'm in public, whether I'm in a library or taking a tour of a church where I've been told 1,000 times to be silent, speak the worries out loud. Just say, oh, I'm worrying about a lot of stuff right now. My brain has run away with itself, and all of a sudden I'm thinking about what happens if I miss this meeting. What I need to do is just give myself a minute, sit down, take a breath, check my ticket, and go and find the train. And I actually say those kind of things out loud to myself and just give myself that kind of narrative that brings it into the modern world. By using language, we're taking this away from being a purely animal thing and we're making it modern. I know it might not seem it to all of us, but language is pretty modern. And if I'm taking these thoughts, these spiraling thoughts out of my head and I'm putting them into language, then I can change my mind. Then I'm back in control. If I say out loud, oh, I'm going to miss this train and then I'm going to lose my job, hold on a second. Well, it's very unlikely that me missing a train leads to me losing my job. There's plenty of other steps in between. Oh, someone's saying I've gone quiet. People still hear me? Hands up if you can still hear me. Ah, sound is fading in and out. Give me 2 seconds. Is that any better? Great. Thank you. It may well be that someone was doing some big delivery outside and there's noise cancelling on the microphone here, so it was cancelling me out as well. But thankfully, they're quiet now. Thank you all for having my back there. I appreciate it. So, yeah, when I'm feeling these anxious situations, to try and put myself back in control, and I do that by being explicit about what's going on. Oh, I've gone again. Listening on the recording as well. It's going to seem a little bit irrelevant to you, but hopefully you can. Is that any better? Quiet. Uh, Bear with me, everyone. Okay, am I quiet still? No, Sergio's put a thumb up. All good, Jasmine, all good, all good. Up and down, that's better. I'm going to keep pushing on. Hopefully this works and sticks with it. I've basically just closed every other application on my computer. Sometimes I think that helps. Maybe I'm helping my computer deal with an overactive brain as well. So yeah, by speaking the problem out loud, I put it into language, something I have power, something I have control over. Sorry, I forgot to go to my question on this chat before I head in. Comfortable chat helps you the most. So I don't know what more I can do. Okay. My microphone is showing that it is absolutely 100% on full volume, except for Microsoft Teams. But we don't need Microsoft Teams because we're not using that right now. Input microphone away. Okay. Go into order visit and take out adjust automatically. Thank you. Audio, video, audio settings. Microphone. Microphone volume, automatically adjust volume, turned off. Okay. You can hear me now? Okay, I see some smiling faces. Thank you so much for bearing with me through all that, everyone. I really appreciate it. And sorry for those of you on the recording. We'll try and cut this bit out, but probably not. I think it's probably best you see me having a bit of an anxious time during a presentation like this. Harry's back in the room. So, as I was asking of you all, what helps you the most when you're feeling anxious? And remember, anxiety and catastrophizing is still very individual. So all of these ideas and options might not apply to you, but it might give you some other thoughts, some other power, some other control. If you're someone that suffers from anxiety on a regular basis, I'd recommend making a list, a physical, piece of paper, and I wish I had one around me, but I am so modern I don't actually have one. Piece of paper and a pen, a list of the things that you can do that help you detach from anxious feelings, that help you take a break from it. I find having something physical like that can be really useful. Daniel just says breathing. Yeah, we're going to talk about that in a second. Oh, Michelle says writing lists. Yeah, really good timing for that one. Sue says Leonard Cohen, a rocking chair, and malt whiskey. Wonderful. Tom says going to the gym. Yeah. And look at how different those two things can be. Sue's talked about something very gentle, self-carey. Yes, maybe involving a bit of alcohol that, can be soothing as well. And then Tom's talked about going to the gym, something really active, something that does put us back in the position of control and power over our body. It's a really good one as well, exercise for anxiety, because it quiets a lot of those animal anxieties around safety. If I feel physically capable in my body. And look, for some of us that's going to the gym. What I say to everyone is just trying to move a little bit more than you did yesterday. If yesterday felt like a bit of a stagnant day, just try and push yourself a little bit more each day. Someone said here, talk to an uninvolved, objective third party. Yeah, distraction, relaxing audio, going for a walk. Yeah, abundance says kind of what I was talking about there. Acknowledge and accept my anxiety rather than denying it or avoiding it or trying to push through. Yeah, and for that, I need to, at base level, accept myself. I need to feel that I deserve to feel anxiety sometimes. I must. It's necessary. But I also deserve to be free of it when I don't need it. Kazia says here, praying, meditating regularly, writing down my thoughts, taking this difficult stuff out of here and putting it into the real world, whether that's writing, talking to someone, singing, dancing, sculpting, anything that gives us a representation that isn't just the electrical impulse going round and round in our brain. My dog, says Nigel. Yeah, write it all in an email I don't send, someone says here privately. Yeah. I think it varies, Mel says. Sometimes I remove myself from everyone. Other times exercise is the key. It's so good to have varied responses. Samantha says swearing therapy. I would like to try that very much. Thank you. Please get in touch with me for a session. I'd love that. I'd love to try out that. Someone says lists work for me. Looking around the room and noticing all the tiny details help to pull this person, Jennifer, out of a cycle. Yeah. Sarah, being honest about it, playing an instrument. Sarah says, my name is Sarah Elizabeth, but I call myself Sarah Jane when I need to get a drip. I get a grip. I don't know why, but it works. How wonderful. So there's a creativity to a lot of these responses. I think creativity is basically the opposite of animalism, right? So like our old animal brain does one set of things. Our modern, beautiful, communicative brain is creative. And I think the more that we can engage in creative activities, the more we can recognize our own needs. Shona says here, I keep a little handkerchief with some chamomile essential oil on it that I breathe in. Really good. Yeah, I got a little essential oil kind of freebie handout at an airport recently, and I found it really helped me and kept me calm while I was traveling. Karen says, I asked myself, what is it specifically you are really worried about to deconstruct it? Yeah, talking to friends. A couple of people have said that here. Looking out to my garden. Really good. Crying, Bounder says, gets out of my system as well sometimes. Yeah, expressing the emotion. Often anxiety is a response that's hiding something emotional in the background. Yeah, and letting that emotion out lets us process and deal with it. Brian says, I wonder if Sarah Jane is from the Doctor Who character. She was very capable. Yeah, wonderful. Great. So think of all of these, write down a couple that stand out to you. Try something new, something different. Cool. A lot of people talked here about breathing, mindfulness, meditation. There are physiological reasons why an attentive set of breathing helps our brain to detach from that. Basically, if I can slow down enough to gently and calmly focus on count my breaths, my animal brain must recognize that I'm not in any danger. And it stops that flood of adrenaline. So just breathing in through your nose for a count of four, and you can do this along with me. I'll do it as a presentation. I do this daily. I breathe in through my nose for 4 seconds, and then hold it for four, and then out through my mouth, and then hold it out. And then back round again, in through my nose. You can see I put my hand up as I do it. I followed this little image that I've used in my presentations for nearly 8 years now. It hasn't changed. Breathing has been around for hundreds of thousands of years. It has been part of most traditional medicine practices. Most traditional practices out there for supporting human beings come with some sort of breathing and breath work. It has helped us get through the most trying times in our life. It helps mothers give birth to children. Breathing is powerful. I mean, some other things help in that situation sometimes as well, I'm sure, but breath is really powerful. And it's, yeah, Wendy's put the main point here. This is really hard to do when you're in an acute episode. In fact, often impossible to do if you're in the middle of an anxiety or a panic attack. This is why I'm really encouraging people just to tune into those early warning signs. The more aware, the more self-aware I am of what the immediate triggers are for me and what those first physical symptoms I get are, the more likely I'm going to be able to do this. If I'm waiting to the point that I'm in an acute episode, yeah, absolutely. Daniel says, you're right, Wendy. I try not to focus too much on the seconds and just try to breathe out for longer than I breathe in. Yeah. Someone says here privately, I do some tapping on acupressure points to calm my brain and body. Really good. There's so many techniques and resources out there. If you do find something that helps you just slow down a little bit, even just once on a daily basis, really useful. I really recommend just going on YouTube and searching for like relaxation technique. There are millions out there. Different styles will suit different people. Some people want someone with someone talking. Some people just want some words on the screen, some want music, some want silence. So just have a little play around and see which works for you. But if you can build something like that into your daily routine, we can slowly build resilience over time as well. And I think that if those of you have been to any of my regular, my recent sessions, I've been doing a lot of these kind of daily check-in techniques. And Oh, someone says here, I had an anxiety attack yesterday. I'm struggling to focus today. The shame I feel is incredible. Well, first of all, I just really appreciate you sharing that with us all. I know you did it privately, but there will be dozens of other people listening to this that go through exactly that same kind of cycle of attack, struggle, and shame. And you being able to be explicit about that has helped them. It might not help you immediately, but we're really grateful for you sharing it with us. And just try and recognize the strength and resilience we've all shown. First of all, just over the past like 3 years, we've been through a global health pandemic. It's easy to forget that kind of thing. Like, I've never read about one of those in the history books since like the plague. So this is a kind of once in a lifetime experience, and maybe not even that. And just cherishing that we have shown a huge amount of resilience as individuals, families, teams, groups, organizations to get through a time like that. And so, yeah, I'm just really grateful you shared that. Yeah, someone else said here, I find I need a recovery period after an episode. I can understand that completely. So the check-in I want to share with you today is just one that just takes time for us to check in what's weighing on us, what's impacting us today. It's so easy to forget this, yes, especially when I'm faced with uncertainty and my brain is just saying go, 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 complete, complete, do, do, do. So just try and ask yourself in a slow manner, and we're going to repeat that breathing exercise. For any of you that want to practice along, please just play along with me. I'm going to give an example of it in front of you. For others, just sit back and watch if you don't feel comfortable joining in. But I want to take one of those deep breaths. I don't need to count anything here, just in through my nose and out through my mouth. When I'm trying to focus on something physical like anxiety, I want to try and bring my attention to my body. And I find that the best way of doing that for me is to make the breathing really energetic. So I'm really sucking in. I'm really letting out with some energy, with some power. I then want to just ask myself a couple of simple questions. First, what deserves my focus today? And if you're practicing along at home, try asking it out loud. Try actually making those sounds. What deserves my focus today? Give yourself a couple of seconds to come up with what deserves your focus. And then the next part, and this is my favorite, is what can I give myself permission to rest from today? Immediately, my shoulders drop a little bit as I even think about giving myself a rest from things today. Okay, let's come back together. I'd love to hear from in the chat if anything interesting came up for you during that exercise, if you tried it along. Someone said here privately, permission to rest from all the negative thoughts. Yeah, if the negative thoughts were with me yesterday and last week, it's likely they'll be with me tomorrow or sometime again in the future. I don't need to keep them constantly on my mind to pay them respect, especially if those negative thoughts are about other people as well. Have a look. Oh, Spanish flu, Tracy reminded me of 100 years ago. Okay, yeah, maybe we were due one then. During the COVID pandemic, I felt way less anxious. Not all the social situations and hectic life. Brilliant. It's great to see some positivity found in that as well. Thank you for sharing that. I really appreciate that. Tracy says, I'm finding this hard, RE, focus and permission whilst at work. Well done in recognizing that. Yeah. So maybe work's not the place you do this. Maybe you do this first thing in the morning when you wake up, or last thing at night before you go to bed to rid yourself of some of those difficult thoughts if they're keeping you awake, something like that. Yeah. I don't think I'd feel comfortable doing this in my office. I agree with you. Yeah. Some of you might. Some of you might be perfectly good with that, and that's fantastic. And then you need cherishing for the fact that you're able to find that rest at work. Sergio, how busy my working life has become since COVID. I need to focus on me. Yeah, that's what came up for me. What deserves my focus today was me. Deborah says, I visualize breathing in positive colors, for me purple, and breathing out negative colors, brown. Sometimes I can get anxious about the day ahead. It feels so overwhelming. So I might sleep some of the hours away, but in a better headspace, I try to break the day up into more manageable chunks. Beautiful. Rachel says, I think giving yourself permission to feel or not feel things is really powerful. I think we're the only person that can give ourselves that permission. As a therapist, I wish I could take feelings away from people sometimes, but wishing and trying to take someone's feelings away it doesn't cut it. You need to find the permission ourselves. Yeah. Oh, Phillips has a good one there. That's one that I perhaps need to listen to. Permission to turn the TV off and have an early night. Yeah, I sometimes find myself watching TV way later than I need to or should. Sometimes just willing there to be more of an evening when there just isn't one anymore. Yeah, that's a good one. Michelle, coursework, other tasks to be looked at tomorrow. Yeah, great. Thank you so many. Thank you all of you for sharing all of those things. It's really, I'm really grateful for it, and I'm sure that loads of others are here as well. Yeah. So we have come to the end. I'm just going to remind you of the support that's available. Those of you that are CiC customers, the best place to find about all our services is well online. I'm going to put the URL in the chat there. You will have different logins depending on what organization you work for. So if you don't already have the login, I suggest contacting HR and they should be able to pass it over to you. Yeah, someone said privately, remembering we can give ourselves the permission. Yeah, fantastic. If you are looking for more, you can sign up to our newsletter at cicwellbeing.com. So come and subscribe to our YouTube channel. You will not get spammed with notifications, I promise. It would be a bit strange if I added that after what I talked about in this session. You'll get a notification once a month when we upload our new webinar. If you're a customer already, go and speak to your account manager for more further training and group sessions. And if you've never heard of CiC before, go and have a look at our corporate website, cicwellbeing.com. I'll put that in the chat too. You'll find out lots of information about us. You can also, all of you, go to the bottom of that corporate website and sign up for our newsletter, as I said in the first bullet point there. And that will give you a reminder and a notification every time one of these webinars is coming up if you like to watch them live. For those of you watching on the recording, goodbye. I'm going to speak to the rest of the people here for another minute or so, but thank you so much for watching and I hope you enjoyed. Bye-bye.